Evelyn Carter woke up before the sun, the way she always had. Old habits didn't disappear just because life slowed down. For 42 years, she had risen early to prepare lesson plans, brew coffee strong enough to wake a classroom, and greet students who needed patience more than discipline. Retirement hadn't changed her internal clock, only the quiet that followed. She sat at the small kitchen table of her modest townhouse, sunlight just beginning to slip through the blinds. Her purse lay open beside her, its contents carefully arranged on a folded dish towel. An empty wallet, a faded driver's license, family photos creased at the corners. She stared at the space where her debit card should have been. She was certain now. It wasn't misplaced. It was gone. The night before, she had taken the bus home from the grocery store, balancing a bag of apples against her hip. Somewhere between the bus stop and her front door, the purse had been opened. No money taken, just the wallet. It bothered her less for what was lost and more for what it represented. At her age, identity wasn't something you could casually replace. Evelyn sighed, folded the towel, and slipped the purse over her shoulder. She dressed neatly, pressed slacks, a soft blue cardigan, sensible shoes. She didn't dress to impress, but she believed appearances mattered, especially when asking for help. Her late husband had taught her that. The police station was only 3 blocks away. She walked slowly, steady on her feet, greeting a neighbor watering his lawn. The building came into view. Concrete, glass, and an American flag fluttering lazily in the morning breeze. She paused at the entrance, took a breath, and stepped inside. The lobby smelled faintly of disinfectant and burnt coffee. A television mounted in the corner played the morning news with the sound off. Behind the front desk sat 2 officers. One typed without looking up. The other leaned back in his chair, scrolling on his phone. Evelyn approached the counter and waited. After a few seconds, she cleared her throat politely. "Excuse me," she said, her voice calm and even. "I'd like to report a stolen wallet." The officer with the phone looked up slowly. He was young, late 20s, maybe early 30s, with sharp features and a badge that looked newer than the scuffed counter between them. His nameplate read Officer Ryan Holt. He glanced at her, then back at the screen. "You sure it's stolen?" he asked, not unkindly, but not respectfully either. "People lose stuff all the time." "Yes," Evelyn replied. "I'm quite sure. I checked everywhere." Holt sighed and stood up, towering slightly as he leaned forward. "Ma'am, filing a report takes time. If there's no money missing, it's probably not worth." "I understand," she said gently, "but I need the report for the bank and the DMV." Something flickered across his face, annoyance, maybe impatience. He tapped the counter once with his knuckles. "All right," he said. "Let's see what you've got." Evelyn straightened her shoulders. She didn't know it yet, but this quiet, ordinary morning was already slipping away from her. Officer Ryan Holt didn't sit back down. He stayed standing, arms folded loosely across his chest, eyes scanning Evelyn Carter the way someone might inspect a problem they didn't feel like solving. She noticed it immediately, not the posture itself, but the lack of warmth behind it. "ID?" Holt asked. Evelyn reached into her purse and handed over her driver's license. He took it between 2 fingers, glanced at it for less than a second, then flipped it face down on the counter as if it was something mildly inconvenient. "You live on Brookline Terrace?" he asked. "Yes." "That's a quiet area," Holt said. "Low crime. You sure you didn't just forget where you put your wallet?" Evelyn kept her voice level. "I've lived there for 27 years, officer. I'm very familiar with my routine." Holt let out a short breath that sounded almost like a laugh. He turned slightly toward the other officer behind the desk, a middle-aged man named Tom Keller, who continued typing as if nothing was happening. "See this all the time," Holt said casually. "People get worked up over nothing." Evelyn felt heat rise in her chest, but she swallowed it down. She had spent a lifetime choosing her battles carefully. "I'm not worked up," she said. "I'm asking to file a report." Holt finally picked up a clipboard. He didn't offer her a seat. "All right, Evelyn," he said, using her first name without asking. "Let's make this quick." He began asking questions, but his tone shifted shorter, sharper. What time did you lose it? I didn't lose it, she replied. It was taken. Holt's pen paused. You see someone take it? No. So you don't actually know it was stolen. I know my purse was closed when I left the store. Holt clicked his pen again, harder this time. Ma'am, assumptions aren't evidence. Evelyn glanced around the lobby. A man in a work uniform sat waiting on a bench, pretending not to listen. The TV continued flashing headlines silently. The station felt smaller now, tighter. I'm not accusing anyone, she said. I just need documentation. Holt leaned forward, resting both palms on the counter. His voice dropped, but the edge in it sharpened. And I'm telling you, this doesn't sound like a crime. Sounds like carelessness. That word landed heavier than it should have. Evelyn stiffened. Are you refusing to take my report? Holt straightened. His jaw tightened. I'm saying you need to be realistic. We've got real problems to deal with, not misplaced wallets. I didn't misplace it, she said again, more firmly this time. Holt's eyes narrowed. You're starting to get argumentative. Across the desk, Keller finally looked up. He glanced between them, hesitated, then went back to his screen. Evelyn felt something shift, not fear, not anger exactly, but a deep, familiar disappointment. She had seen this look before. In classrooms, in meetings, in places where power decided who deserved patience. I'm not being argumentative, she said quietly. I'm being clear. Holt exhaled slowly through his nose. All right, he said, but if this turns out to be a waste of time, that's on you. Evelyn nodded once. She didn't know why his words unsettled her so much, but she felt, for the first time, that she was no longer being treated as a citizen asking for help. She was being treated as a problem. Holt moved with the kind of impatience that made everything feel like an interruption. He walked Evelyn away from the front desk, not toward a private office or a quiet reporting area, but toward a standing counter near the side wall, right under a security camera and in full view of the lobby. Stand here, he said, as if he were directing someone in line at the DMV. Evelyn did. She clasped her hands in front of her, steadying herself. The fluorescent lights overhead made everything look harsher than it needed to. Even the white walls felt cold. Holt flipped through a stack of blank forms and shoved one toward her. Fill this out. Evelyn looked down. The print was small, the boxes cramped. She adjusted her glasses and leaned closer. Could you read me the sections? She asked politely. My eyes aren't what they used to be. Holt stared at her for a moment like she had asked him to carry her home. You want me to fill it out for you? I'm asking for help, Evelyn said. That's why I came here. Holt scoffed. Unbelievable. The word hit her like a slap, small but humiliating. Evelyn glanced around again. The man on the bench had stopped pretending. He was watching now. A young woman with a toddler had walked into the lobby and paused, sensing the tension in the air. Evelyn lowered her voice. Officer, please. I'm not trying to cause trouble. Holt stepped closer. Then stop making this difficult. Evelyn's mouth tightened. I'm not making it difficult. You are. The silence that followed was instant and heavy. Holt's eyes widened slightly, as if he couldn't believe she had spoken back. His posture changed. His shoulders squared. His voice rose just enough to make sure everyone heard. Ma'am, he said sharply, you don't get to tell me how to do my job. Evelyn felt her heart thump once, hard. She didn't back down. But she didn't raise her voice either. I'm not telling you how to do your job, she said. I'm asking you to do it. That was the moment the situation stopped being about a wallet. Holt's face flushed. He leaned in close enough that Evelyn could smell stale coffee on his breath. You people come in here, he muttered, demanding things like we owe you something. Evelyn blinked. You people? Holt's jaw clenched. He caught himself, but it was too late. The words were already in the room. Evelyn straightened her back, slow and deliberate. Officer Holt, she said, her voice suddenly calmer than before. I'm a taxpayer. I'm a citizen, and I'm an elderly woman standing in your station asking for help. Holt let out a humorless laugh. Yeah, and I'm supposed to drop everything because you lost your purse. I did not lose it, Evelyn said, firmer now. Someone took it. Holt slammed the clipboard down onto the counter. The sound echoed across the lobby. Enough, he snapped. I'm not doing this today. Evelyn flinched not because she was scared of him, but because the sudden aggression was so unnecessary. The toddler began fussing. The mother pulled her closer. Evelyn turned her head slightly toward the front desk where Officer Keller sat. "Excuse me," she said. "Could I speak to a supervisor, please?" Keller froze. He looked up, eyes flicking to Holt. Holt's head whipped around. "No," he said instantly. "You're not going to play that game." "It's not a game," Evelyn replied. "It's my right." Holt stepped in front of her, blocking her path like a wall. "Your right is to leave," he said, "because right now you're causing a disturbance." Evelyn's hands trembled slightly at her sides. She forced them still. "I'm not leaving," she said quietly. "Not until someone takes my report." Holt stared at her, breathing heavier now, his anger building like pressure in a sealed container, and for the first time, Evelyn realized something chilling. He wasn't annoyed anymore. He was looking for a reason. For a moment, the lobby of the Brookline police station went unnaturally still. Evelyn Carter stood her ground, not with arrogance, not with attitude, but with the quiet stubbornness of a woman who had spent her entire life teaching teenagers that respect did not mean obedience. Her chin was slightly raised. Her hands were at her sides. Her voice had never risen above calm. Officer Ryan Holt stared at her like she had insulted him. "You're not leaving," he repeated slower this time, as if he wanted her to hear how ridiculous it sounded coming from her mouth. "No," Evelyn said. "I'm not." Holt's jaw flexed. He glanced toward the front desk. Officer Keller was watching now, frozen in place, hands hovering over his keyboard like he didn't know whether to keep typing or pretend he hadn't seen anything. Two other officers in the back hallway had paused mid-conversation. Even the man on the bench had stopped shifting his feet. Evelyn could feel the eyes on her. She didn't want attention. She didn't want conflict. She wanted a simple police report so she could cancel her cards and replace her ID. That was all. But Holt wasn't interested in all. He was interested in winning. "Ma'am," Holt said, his voice rising just enough to carry across the room. "You're disrupting police operations." Evelyn blinked. "I'm standing here." "You're refusing a lawful order," Holt snapped. Evelyn's eyebrows lifted. "A lawful order to leave a police station?" Holt stepped closer, invading her space. "Yes. Because you're being combative." Combative. The word was ridiculous. Evelyn weighed maybe 130 pounds. Her hair was grey and pulled back neatly. Her shoulders were narrow. Her hands looked like they belonged to someone who baked pies and folded laundry, not someone who fought police. She took a slow breath. "Officer," she said carefully, "please stop speaking to me like I'm a criminal. I haven't done anything wrong." That sentence, calm, measured, truthful, hit Holt like gasoline. His face tightened, his eyes narrowed, and something in him snapped, not loudly, but suddenly, like a switch flipping in a dark room. "You think you're smart," Holt muttered. "You think you can talk your way into controlling this situation?" Evelyn's voice stayed soft. "I'm not trying to control anything." Holt's hands clenched into fists. Evelyn saw it. She saw the moment his restraint disappeared, not because she had threatened him, not because she had done anything dangerous, but because she had refused to be small. Holt leaned forward, his face inches from hers. "Last chance," he said. "Walk out that door." Evelyn didn't move. Instead, she looked past him, toward the front desk, toward the other officers, toward the security camera above the wall, toward anyone who might remember that a police station was supposed to be a place of safety. Then she spoke again, the same calm tone. "I want a supervisor." Holt's right hand moved before Evelyn even had time to process it. A sharp crack echoed through the lobby. His palm struck her face hard. Not a shove, not a push. A slap. Evelyn's head snapped to the side. Her glasses flew crooked. Her body staggered backward, off balance. She reached for the counter instinctively. But her hand missed. She fell. Her knees hit first, then her hip, then her shoulder. Pain shot through her like lightning. The world tilted. Her ears rang. The toddler in the lobby began crying loudly. Someone gasped. For half a second, Holt looked stunned, like even he couldn't believe what he had just done. Then, just as quickly, he recovered. "Stop resisting," he barked, stepping forward. Evelyn looked up at him from the floor, eyes wide, not with fear, but disbelief. "Resisting?" she whispered. Holt's chest rose and fell. His voice lowered again, dangerous now. "You're going to learn," he said, "that you don't come in here and disrespect me." Evelyn's cheek burned. Her hip throbbed. Her hand shook as she tried to push herself up. Officer Keller stood halfway out of his chair, face pale. One of the officers in the hallway took a step forward, then stopped. Nobody moved. Nobody stopped him. And that was the part Evelyn would remember most. Not the slap, not the pain, but the silence that followed, like the entire building had decided, all at once, that she didn't matter. Evelyn Carter sat on the floor for a second, longer than she needed to, not because she couldn't get up, but because her body was trying to understand what had just happened. Her cheek burned, like it had been pressed against a hot stove. The inside of her mouth tasted metallic, and when she swallowed, she realized her lip had split. Her glasses were crooked, one lens smudged from the impact. She blinked slowly, forcing her breathing to stay steady. Officer Ryan Holt stood over her like a shadow, his chest still rising and falling too fast. His eyes darted around the lobby, checking faces, checking reactions like he was calculating how much trouble he was in. Then he made his choice. He turned it into her fault. "Look at this," Holt said loudly, projecting for the room. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You come in here, you get in my face, you refuse to leave, now you want to act like a victim." Evelyn stared at him. Her voice came out quieter than she expected. "I didn't get in your face." Holt ignored that completely. He crouched slightly, not to help her, but to get closer. "You swung at me," he muttered under his breath. "You understand? That's what happened." Evelyn's eyes widened. "I did not—" "Stop," Holt snapped, cutting her off. He straightened and looked toward Officer Keller at the front desk. "Keller, log it." Keller didn't move. Holt's gaze sharpened. "Log it," he repeated. Keller swallowed hard and looked down at his computer. His hands began typing. Evelyn watched him, stunned, not because she expected him to fight Holt, but because she expected someone to at least ask if she was okay. Nobody did. The man on the bench stood up slowly, uncomfortable. He took a step toward the door, then stopped like he didn't want to leave her alone, but he didn't want to get involved either. He left anyway. The mother with the toddler backed away, eyes wide, and hurried out as if the building itself had become dangerous. Evelyn finally pushed herself up, using the edge of the counter for support. Her hips screamed. Her knees felt weak. She kept her face neutral, but her hands trembled. Holt stepped back, pretending to be calm now. "Since you want to cause a scene," he said, "you can sit over there." He pointed toward a row of chairs near the wall, the kind you'd see in a courthouse waiting area. Evelyn didn't sit. Instead, she wiped her lip gently with the back of her hand and looked at the blood. Her voice was still calm, but something inside it had changed. "I need medical attention." Holt rolled his eyes. "You're fine. I'm bleeding." Holt glanced at her mouth, then shrugged. "Paper cut. Happens." Evelyn stared at him. "You hit me." Holt's expression hardened again. "You resisted. I'm 68 years old, and you're disruptive." Holt shot back. Then, like he wanted to end it quickly, he reached for his radio. "Dispatch. I need a unit in the lobby. We've got a disorderly subject." Evelyn felt a chill run down her spine. Disorderly subject. She hadn't screamed. She hadn't cursed. She hadn't raised a hand. But the system didn't require truth. It required language. Labels. A story that made Holt look justified. Within a minute, 2 officers came from the hallway. One of them was a tall man with tired eyes, Officer James Riley, and the other was younger, nervous, scanning Evelyn like he wasn't sure what he was supposed to see. Holt spoke first. "She got aggressive," he said, casual as ever. "Refused to leave. Took a swing at me." Evelyn's mouth fell open. "That's a lie," she said, the first real emotion breaking through her voice. Riley looked at Evelyn, then at Holt. He hesitated. His eyes flicked toward the security camera in the corner. Then he did what cops often did when the truth was inconvenient. He looked away. "Ma'am," Riley said, voice flat, "we're going to need you to come with us." Evelyn felt her throat tighten, not from fear, from humiliation, and from the sudden realization that this wasn't going to end with a report. It was going to end with her being treated like a criminal inside the very building where she had come for help. Evelyn Carter didn't fight them. She didn't argue when Officer Riley guided her toward the side hallway. She didn't raise her voice when Holt kept talking behind them, still trying to control the story. She simply walked slowly, stiffly, one hand pressed against her hip, the other holding her purse strap like it was the only thing anchoring her to reality. The hallway smelled like old paper and floor cleaner. It led to a small processing area with a metal bench and a dull grey door that looked like it had been kicked too many times. "Sit," Riley said. Evelyn lowered herself carefully onto the bench. Her joints ached. Her cheek still pulsed. She adjusted her glasses with shaky fingers, trying to keep them from sliding off her nose. Officer Holt stood in the doorway, arms crossed again, watching her like he was waiting for her to break. Evelyn looked up at him. "I want to file a complaint," she said. Holt smiled slightly, like she had told him a joke. "Sure you do." Riley shifted uncomfortably. He glanced at Holt, then back at Evelyn. "Ma'am," Riley said, quieter now, "just cooperate. This'll go faster." Evelyn's voice was steady. "Cooperate with what?" "I came in here to report theft. Your officer struck me." Holt stepped forward, his voice sharp. "Watch your mouth." Evelyn held his gaze. "Or what? You'll hit me again?" For a split second, Holt's face twitched. Then he recovered and looked at Riley like he wanted backup. Riley cleared his throat. Let's just get her information down," Holt scoffed. "Forget it. She wants to play games." Evelyn's hands tightened on her purse. Her chest felt heavy. She could feel the humiliation creeping up her throat like nausea. But she refused to cry here. Not in front of them. Not in this room. Evelyn took a breath and spoke slowly. "I want my phone call." Holt's head tilted. "Phone call?" "Yes," Evelyn said. "I'm being detained. I want to call my son." Holt laughed once. "Your son?" Evelyn didn't answer the tone. She answered the question. "Yes." Holt leaned in the doorway, smirking. "You don't get a phone call because you're not under arrest. You're just being handled." Evelyn's eyes narrowed. "Handled." Riley looked uncomfortable now. "Holt." Holt waved him off. "She's not going anywhere. She can sit until she calms down." Evelyn's voice hardened slightly. "I am calm." Holt's smile vanished. "Then act like it." Minutes passed, then more. Evelyn sat quietly on the bench, breathing slowly, staring at the grey wall. Her cheek throbbed. Her lip felt swollen. Her hip was beginning to stiffen in a way that told her tomorrow would be worse. Riley stepped out at one point, and when he returned, he didn't meet her eyes. Holt, meanwhile, was gone. Evelyn didn't know where he went. She only knew the room felt a fraction less hostile without him in it. Finally, after what felt like an hour, Riley returned with a cordless phone. He held it out like it was contraband. "Make it quick," he said. Evelyn took the phone with both hands. Her fingers trembled not from weakness, but from the emotional weight of it. She dialed from memory. It rang twice. A voice answered immediately, low and alert. "Marcus." Evelyn swallowed. "Hi, baby." There was a pause, a shift in the air, even through the line. "Mom?" Marcus said. "What's wrong?" Evelyn tried to soften her tone. She tried to protect him the way mothers always did, even when they shouldn't. I had a little problem," she said. "I came to the station to report my wallet stolen." Marcus didn't speak for a second. Then he said very carefully, "Why are you calling me from the police station?" Evelyn's throat tightened. She stared at the wall, forcing her voice to stay even. "One of the officers got upset," she said quietly. He hit me." Silence. Not confusion, not disbelief. Silence like a door closing. Then Marcus spoke again, and his voice had changed completely. "Where are you right now?" Evelyn blinked. I'm still here. They have me in a back room." Marcus exhaled once, slow and controlled. "Mom," he said, "listen to me. Don't say another word to anyone. Don't sign anything. Don't argue. Just sit tight." Evelyn's eyes stung. "Marcus." "I'm coming," he said, and his voice was so calm it was terrifying. "And they're going to wish they'd never touched you." Evelyn held the phone close, her hands trembling again. For the first time since she walked into the station, she felt something other than humiliation. She felt the ground shifting under them, and she knew deep down that Officer Ryan Holt had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Marcus Carter didn't raise his voice. That was the first thing people always misunderstood about him. They expected anger, shouting, threats. They expected a son ready to storm a police station with righteous fury. Marcus did none of that. He ended the call with his mother, sat still in his car for 3 seconds, and let the silence settle. Then he moved. Marcus was 42 years old, broad-shouldered, clean-cut, with the kind of presence that didn't demand attention but commanded it anyway. He had spent nearly 2 decades with the Bureau, most of them in units that never made the news. Internal affairs, civil rights. The quiet corners of federal law enforcement where careers ended not with sirens but with paperwork. He didn't react emotionally, because he couldn't afford to. Emotion made mistakes. Marcus pulled a small notebook from his glove compartment and wrote one line. Brookline Police Station, 9:14 a.m. Time mattered. He started the engine and drove not fast, not reckless. Controlled. Every mile he covered, he replayed his mother's words in his head. He hit me, not shoved, not pushed aside. Hit. Marcus had seen enough cases to know exactly how this would unfold if left alone. A vague report. Resisting. Disorderly. Officer feared for safety. The language was predictable, almost lazy, unless someone forced the truth into daylight. At a red light, Marcus dialed another number. Carter. A voice answered. Angela, Marcus said. I need you to pull records on Officer Ryan Holt. Badge number unknown. Brookline PD. There was a pause. Then the sound of keys tapping. Civil rights or IA? Angela asked. Both, Marcus replied, quietly. You got it, she said. What's going on? Marcus looked through the windshield, jaw tight. He assaulted my mother. The tapping stopped. I'll call you back, Angela said. Marcus ended the call and exhaled slowly. He didn't feel rage the way people imagined. What he felt was clarity, focus, the kind that came when a problem finally made sense. He thought about his mother, Evelyn Carter, a woman who corrected homework in red pen but softened every note with kindness. A woman who taught him that authority without integrity was just bullying with better clothes. She had taught him the law mattered. Now, the law would answer her. Marcus turned into the station parking lot and parked across the street, not in front. Visibility mattered, but timing mattered more. He didn't walk in immediately. Instead, he observed. Officers moved in and out of the building. One laughed as he stepped outside. Another leaned against the wall, smoking. Normal morning. No urgency. No accountability. Marcus checked his watch. Still no supervisor presence. That told him something. He pulled his jacket tighter, revealing nothing beneath it, no badge, no credentials. He wasn't here as an FBI agent yet. Not officially. Inside the building, Evelyn sat on a hard bench with a split lip and bruising hip, waiting. She didn't know what Marcus was doing. She only knew he had told her to sit tight. And she trusted him. Marcus crossed the street slowly and stopped just short of the entrance. He looked up at the flag waving above the station, then at the security camera mounted over the doors. Good. He stepped inside. The lobby looked the same as it had an hour ago. Quiet, fluorescent, tense in ways people ignored. Officer Keller was at the desk. Holt wasn't visible. Marcus approached calmly and stood where his mother had stood. Good morning, he said. I'm here to see Evelyn Carter. Keller looked up. Relation? I'm her son. Keller hesitated. She's, being spoken to right now. Marcus nodded once. Then I'll wait. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't threaten. But something in his stillness made Keller uneasy. Marcus stood there, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes scanning the room with professional familiarity. He knew stations like this. He knew men like Holt. And he knew one thing for certain. This wasn't going to be handled internally. Not anymore. Marcus Carter didn't announce who he was. Not yet. He stayed in the lobby for less than 2 minutes before Officer Keller's discomfort turned into action. Keller picked up the desk phone, dialed a short extension, and spoke in a low voice Marcus couldn't fully hear. Then Keller looked up again, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Sir," Keller said, "can I ask why you're here?" Marcus kept his expression neutral. "My mother called me." Keller nodded, as if that explained everything and also nothing. "Right. Okay. Just, give me 1 moment." Marcus waited. A door on the side hallway opened and a woman stepped out. She was in her 50s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense stride. Her uniform was clean, her hair pulled back tight. Captain Linda Morales. Marcus recognized the type instantly. Career police. Not a bully. Not a saint either. Someone who knew how to keep a station running and how to keep problems from reaching the mayor's office. Captain Morales stopped in front of him. "Mr. Carter?" she asked. Marcus nodded. "Yes, I'm Captain Morales," she said. "Your mother is safe. She's upset, but safe." Marcus held her gaze. "Is she injured?" Morales hesitated for half a second too long. "She had a fall," Morales said carefully. Marcus didn't react. He simply nodded again. "A fall," he repeated. Morales cleared her throat. "We're looking into it." Marcus glanced toward the hallway. "I'd like to see her." Morales raised a hand. "Before that, sir, this is an active situation. If you're here to escalate—" "I'm here to document," Marcus said, voice calm. "Not escalate." That sentence landed differently than she expected. Morales studied him more closely now. "What do you do for work, Mr. Carter?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. He could have said it then. Could have ended this in 1 sentence. But Marcus knew how people behaved when they felt threatened. They destroyed evidence. They coordinated stories. They hid the truth behind policy. So Marcus gave her nothing. "I work for the federal government," he said. Morales' eyes narrowed slightly. Then she nodded once. "All right, follow me." She led him down the hallway into a small interview room. Evelyn sat inside on a metal chair, holding a paper towel against her lip. Her glasses were back on, but one arm was bent slightly. Her face looked composed, but Marcus could see the damage. A red mark across her cheek, a small cut at the corner of her mouth, her cardigan wrinkled where she had fallen. Evelyn looked up and her eyes softened instantly. "Marcus," she whispered. Marcus walked in, knelt beside her chair, and gently touched her cheek without pressing. His jaw tightened, but his voice stayed quiet. "Did he hit you?" Marcus asked. Evelyn hesitated, still trying to protect him. Still trying to make it smaller than it was. "Yes," she admitted, "he did." Marcus nodded once. Then he stood and turned to Captain Morales. "I want her taken to a hospital," Marcus said. Morales frowned. "That's not necessary. We can have EMS check her here." Marcus looked at her, expression unreadable. "No." The firmness in that one word made Morales pause. Marcus continued. "Calm and precise. I want her injuries documented by an independent medical professional. I also want the CCTV footage preserved. Immediately." Morales blinked. "Sir, you don't have the authority to—" Marcus cut her off, still polite. "Captain, if that footage disappears, the next person you'll be explaining yourself to will not be me." Morales stared at him. She was trying to decide what kind of man she was dealing with. A loud civilian? A politician's son? A lawyer? Or something worse? Marcus stepped closer, lowering his voice slightly. "Your officer made a serious mistake," he said, "and if you try to cover it up, you'll be standing next to him when it collapses." Morales swallowed. Then she turned sharply and walked out of the room. Marcus sat beside his mother again, his voice softening. "You did nothing wrong," he said. Evelyn's eyes glistened. "I just wanted a report." Marcus nodded. "I know," he said, "and now we're going to get the truth." Outside the interview room, Captain Morales was already barking orders, and somewhere deeper in the station, Officer Ryan Holt was about to learn what it felt like to be on the other side of power when power didn't need to shout. The shift inside the Brookline police station was subtle but unmistakable. It started with doors closing. Captain Linda Morales moved quickly now, her calm professionalism edged with urgency. She didn't raise her voice, but the tone she used carried authority sharp enough to cut through resistance. "Preserve all footage," she said to the tech officer in the surveillance room. "Lobby cameras, hallway cameras, audio if it exists. Nothing gets touched." The officer hesitated. "Captain." Morales fixed him with a look. "Nothing," she repeated, "gets touched. Down the hall." Officer Ryan Holt sensed it before anyone told him. He was in the break room, leaning against the counter, replaying the moment in his head, not the slap itself, but the second after. The silence. The looks. The way Keller hadn't backed him up fast enough. That wasn't how it was supposed to go. Holt straightened when he saw Morales walking toward him. "Captain," he said, forcing a casual tone. "I was just about to write up the report." Morales stopped 3 feet away. "You already did," she said. Holt frowned. "Excuse me?" "Keller logged your statement," she replied. "Disorderly subject. Aggressive behavior. Self-inflicted fall." Holt relaxed slightly. "Right, that's what happened." Morales didn't blink. "Then you won't mind if I ask a few questions." Holt shrugged. "Ask away." Morales folded her arms. "Why didn't you call for a supervisor before it escalated?" Holt scoffed. "She didn't give me a reason." Morales tilted her head. "You're telling me a 68-year-old woman was such a threat you couldn't de-escalate?" Holt's jaw tightened. She was confrontational. Morales took a step closer. "Did you strike her?" Holt froze just for a fraction of a second. Then he shook his head. "No. She swung first. I reacted." Morales studied him in silence. She had been a cop for 30 years. She had seen lies dressed up as confidence. She had seen panic masquerading as certainty. And she had seen good officers ruin themselves by doubling down too early. "All right," Morales said finally. "Hand over your body cam." Holt's stomach dropped. "Camera glitched," he said quickly. "Didn't record." Morales' eyes hardened. Convenient. In the surveillance room, a junior officer named Evan Brooks sat stiffly in his chair as footage rolled across the monitors. He watched the lobby replay from multiple angles. Evelyn standing calmly, Holt stepping closer, the slap clear as day. Brooks swallowed hard. Behind him stood Sergeant Nina Walsh, arms crossed. "Save that file," Walsh said quietly. Brooks hesitated. "Captain didn't say." Walsh leaned in. "Save it." Elsewhere, Officer James Riley sat alone at his desk, staring at his hands. He replayed Evelyn's voice in his head. "He hit me." He knew what he had seen, and he knew what Holt had done. When Morales passed his desk, Riley stood up. "Captain," he said. Morales stopped. "Yes?" Riley swallowed. "I need to amend my statement." Morales looked at him carefully. "Why?" Riley exhaled. "Because what I wrote wasn't accurate." Morales nodded once. "Write the truth." Riley sat back down, hands shaking as he began typing. Words spread fast. Officers avoided Holt's eyes. Conversations stopped when he entered a room. The laughter from earlier was gone, replaced by silence and distance. Holt felt it. The station wasn't protecting him anymore. It was protecting itself. Back in the interview room, Marcus Carter sat beside his mother, watching through the glass as the machine began to turn inward. He didn't smile. He didn't need to, because once a system started eating its own lies, it never stopped halfway. And Officer Ryan Holt, whether he realized it or not, was already on the wrong side of the story. Marcus Carter didn't rush the moment. That was the mistake people like Ryan Holt always made. They assumed confrontation meant volume, aggression, dominance. They expected chest-puffing and threats. They prepared for noise. Marcus brought silence. Captain Morales led him down the hallway toward a small administrative office. "Officer Holt is inside," she said. "I'll be present." "That won't be necessary," Marcus replied calmly. Morales stopped walking. "Excuse me?" Marcus met her eyes. "I'm not here to interrogate him. I'm here to listen." Morales studied him for a second, then nodded. 5 minutes. She opened the door and stepped aside. Ryan Holt sat at the desk, arms crossed, jaw tight. He looked up sharply when Marcus entered, scanning him head to toe. Civilian clothes. No badge. No visible authority. Good. And you are? Holt asked. Marcus closed the door behind him and remained standing. Marcus Carter? Holt smirked. Family of the lady who fell? Marcus didn't correct him. Yes. Holt leaned back. Look, man. Things get heated. Your mum got aggressive. I did my job. Marcus nodded slowly. That's your position. Holt frowned slightly. Position. Your version of events, Marcus clarified. You believe it. Holt bristled. I know it. Marcus tilted his head. Then this will be simple. Holt straightened. Simple how? Marcus stepped closer to the desk, resting one hand lightly on the edge, not aggressive, just present. Walk me through it, Marcus said. From the beginning. Slowly. Holt hesitated, then shrugged. She came in demanding a report, got mouthy, refused to leave, took a swing at me, lost her balance. Marcus nodded, eyes steady. Where were your hands when she swung? Holt blinked. What? Your hands, Marcus repeated. Were they raised? At your sides? On her? Holt's jaw tightened. I don't remember every detail. Marcus smiled faintly, not amused, not smug, just patient. That's interesting, Marcus said, because you remembered enough to write a full report in under 10 minutes. Holt's smirk faded. What's your angle here? Marcus leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. My angle is understanding why your story changes depending on the question. Holt scoffed. You trying to scare me? No, Marcus said honestly. I'm trying to see how deep you're willing to dig. Holt laughed once, sharp. You don't have anything on me. Marcus straightened. Maybe. He paused, then added casually, maybe not. Holt's eyes flicked toward the door. You a lawyer or something? Marcus considered the question. No. Holt relaxed a fraction. Then you should probably let this go. These things don't end well for civilians. Marcus nodded. They don't. For civilians. Holt caught the emphasis but didn't fully grasp it. You threatening me? Marcus shook his head. No threats, just outcomes. He took a step back toward the door. One last question. Holt rolled his eyes. Make it quick. Did you check the lobby camera before you wrote your report? Holt stiffened. Why would I? Marcus held his gaze. Because it would show whether your version of events matched reality. Holt swallowed. Camera wasn't relevant. Marcus nodded once, satisfied. All right, he said, opening the door. Thank you for your time. As Marcus stepped into the hallway, Holt called after him. Hey, Holt said, voice sharp. You think you won something? Marcus turned back, expression calm. No, he said. I think you already lost. Holt snorted. We'll see. Marcus walked away without another word. He didn't need Holt to confess. He didn't need him to panic. He needed him exactly where he was. Confident, defensive, and on the record. Because the next conversation wouldn't be informal, it wouldn't be quiet, and it wouldn't be optional. And when Officer Ryan Holt finally learned who Marcus Carter really was, the damage wouldn't come from shouting or threats. It would come from paperwork, federal statutes, and the kind of authority that didn't wear a uniform. The change didn't happen with sirens. It happened with emails. Captain Linda Morales stood in her office, staring at her computer screen as the subject line of the message burned itself into her memory. Federal Notice of Investigation, Civil Rights Division. She exhaled slowly and leaned back in her chair. So, that was it. She picked up the phone immediately. Conference room now, she said to her assistant. Get Holt, Riley, legal. Across the station, Officer Ryan Holt was still telling himself everything was under control. He sat at his desk, tapping his pen, scrolling through his phone like this was just another administrative inconvenience. Internal reviews happened all the time. Complaints came and went. Civilians exaggerated. The department circled the wagons. It always had, until Officer James Riley stopped by Holt's desk. Holt? Riley said quietly. Captain wants you in the conference room. Holt looked up. What for? Riley hesitated. Legal's here. That gave Holt pause. Still, he stood and straightened his uniform, rolling his shoulders like he was preparing for inspection. He walked down the hallway with practiced confidence. The conference room felt different when he stepped inside. Captain Morales stood at the head of the table. A woman Holt didn't recognize sat to her right, dark suit, calm eyes, a leather folder resting neatly in front of her. Another man stood near the wall, silent, watching. Holt smiled. "What's this about?" The woman stood. "Officer Ryan Holt," she said evenly. "My name is Angela Pierce. I'm with the FBI, Civil Rights Division." Holt's smile froze. Captain Morales didn't look at him. Angela opened her folder. "As of this morning, you are under federal investigation for violation of civil rights, under color of law, assault, and falsification of official reports." Holt laughed too quickly. "That's ridiculous." Angela met his eyes. "Sit down." Something in her tone made him obey. She slid a still image across the table. It was a frame from the lobby camera. His hand, mid-swing, Evelyn Carter's face, turning away. Holt's throat went dry. Angela continued. "Your body cam malfunctioned. Convenient. The station's lobby cameras did not." Holt's mouth opened, then closed again. Morales finally spoke. "You lied to me." Holt snapped his head toward her. "Captain," Morales cut him off. "You lied to the department, and you put every officer in this building at risk." Angela stood straighter. "You are being placed on immediate administrative leave pending arrest." Holt pushed back from the table. "You can't do this." "I didn't." The man by the wall stepped forward and flashed his credentials. "Special Agent Marcus Carter," he said calmly. Holt's eyes darted to him. Marcus continued, his voice controlled, almost gentle. "You assaulted my mother." The room went silent. Holt's face drained of color. "Your mother?" Marcus nodded once. "Evelyn Carter." Holt stood abruptly. "This is bullshit." Angela raised a hand. "Officer Holt, you are not under arrest at this moment, but you will be." Holt laughed again, desperate now. "You're ruining my career over a misunderstanding." Marcus stepped closer. "No," he said quietly. "You ruined it when you chose violence." Morales pressed a button on the wall phone. "Security." 2 uniformed officers appeared at the door, neither one. Holt recognized as a friend. "Officer Holt," Morales said, voice firm. "Turn in your badge and weapon." Holt looked around the room, searching for support. He found none. Slowly, trembling now, he unclipped his badge and placed it on the table. Then the gun. The sound they made when they hit the wood was louder than expected. Final. Marcus watched without satisfaction, without anger. This wasn't revenge. This was accountability. And as Holt was escorted out, head down, shoulders hunched, the full weight of what he had done finally landed. Not because he'd slapped an elderly woman, but because that woman had a son who understood the system well enough to make it tell the truth. The press gathered outside the Brookline police station the next morning. Microphones clustered like a thicket of steel and foam. Cameras clicked as Captain Linda Morales stepped to the podium, her expression measured, controlled but strained. "Yesterday," she began, "the Brookline Police Department became aware of a serious incident involving one of our officers and a civilian. We are cooperating fully with a federal investigation." She didn't say Holt's name. She didn't need to. Inside the building, Evelyn Carter sat in a quiet office with a cup of tea she hadn't touched. A small bandage covered the cut on her lip. Her cheek was still swollen, a faint purple bloom spreading beneath the skin. A nurse from the hospital had come and gone, documenting every bruise with clinical care. Marcus sat across from her, jacket folded neatly on his lap. "You should rest," he said gently. "We can go home." Evelyn shook her head. "I want to hear it." A knock came at the door. Captain Morales stepped in, slower now, without the authority in her stride. She closed the door behind her. "Mrs. Carter," Morales said, "I want to apologize, personally, and on behalf of this department." Evelyn studied her for a long moment. "For what?" she asked quietly. "For him? Or for everyone who watched and did nothing?" Morales swallowed. "For all of it." Evelyn nodded once. "Thank you." Morales turned to Marcus. "The city's legal counsel will be reaching out. There will be a civil settlement." Marcus responded evenly. "We'll listen." Morales hesitated, then added, "Officer Holt has been terminated. His arrest is pending federal charges." Evelyn closed her eyes, not in relief, not in triumph, but in exhaustion. "That's enough," she said. "I don't want him destroyed. I want him accountable." Morales nodded. "Understood." Later that afternoon, Evelyn stood at a different podium, this one outside the courthouse. She wore a simple navy coat. Her posture was upright. Marcus stood a step behind her, silent. A reporter raised a hand. "Mrs. Carter, do you feel justice was served?" Evelyn considered the question. "Justice," she said slowly, "isn't loud. It doesn't shout or celebrate. Justice is quiet. It's paperwork done correctly. It's people telling the truth even when it costs them." Another reporter asked, "What would you say to Officer Holt?" Evelyn looked straight ahead. "I would tell him I hope he learns the difference between authority and power." The settlement came weeks later, substantial, public, without a non-disclosure agreement. Evelyn donated most of it to a local legal aid fund that helped people who didn't have sons who could walk into a station and be believed. She didn't want statues. She wanted systems to work. As for Ryan Holt, the news cycle moved on faster than he did. His name appeared in court filings, then disappeared into the slow machinery of consequence. No hero's exit. No dramatic downfall. Just the end of a career built on certainty that no one would challenge him. On a quiet Sunday morning, Evelyn returned to her routine. Coffee, the newspaper, sunlight through the blinds. Her purse sat on the table, zipped closed, heavier now with new cards and a fresh ID. Marcus stood at the door, about to leave. "You okay?" he asked. Evelyn smiled faintly. "I am." She paused, then added, "Thank you for coming." Marcus shook his head. "You didn't need me to matter." Evelyn met his eyes. "No," she said, "but sometimes it helps when the truth has backup." The door closed behind him. The house returned to its quiet. And somewhere in the city, the lesson lingered, uncomfortable, unavoidable, and finally heard. Power doesn't come from a badge. It comes from what you do when someone weaker stands in front of you and refuses to disappear.